Welcome back to NTV Weekend Edition. 11 impeachment motions against sitting governors and deputy governors have been witnessed in the country in the last 10 years of devolution, with only 2 successfully ending the careers of individuals involved. Former governors Mike Sonko and Ferdinand Waititu were the only ones ousted by a system that saved several others. The impeachment clause is now a subject of many conversations. Some say that it is the game changer in ensuring that graft and high-handedness is curtailed in the counties. Others say that it is used as a tool to political waywardness. Here is Ibrahim Karanja with a closer look at Article 181 of the Kenyan Constitution, as read together with Section 33 of the County Governments Act of 2012.
With a choice to bring governance and resources closer through a devolved system of government, the Kenyan people also granted upon themselves the power to be more involved. With that power, there are elections into office and there were removal from office by way of impeachment. 10 years into devolution and at least 11 impeachment motions have been witnessed across the country, seeking to oust governors from their seats. From Martin Wambora of Embu to the late Nderito Gachagua of Nyeri, Mwangi Wairia of Muranga, Professor Paul Chepkwony of Kericho, Granton Samboja of Taita Taveta, or even to the most recent being Meru's Kawira Mwangaza, the noose of an impeachment has always been hanging around county bosses. Article 181 of the Constitution of Kenya 2010 sets out the grounds for the removal of a governor through impeachments. Further, the County Governments Act 2012 outlines the impeachment process of removing a governor from office. However, despite the clear provisions of the law, though initially well-intended, impeachments have reportedly been hijacked for political reasons. A person who maintains that his ouster was not only uncalled for but also non-procedural is former Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko, who together with his former Kiambu counterpart Ferdinand Waititu remain as the only individuals whose political fate was sealed, done and dusted through successful impeachments.
Meaning the threshold was not reached, my impeachment was not proper. Again, although I've said I don't want to go into the details of some of the proceedings or processes that were being conducted, but the technicality, that is one of the major technicalities, that there was no roll call at the county assembly, there was no participation in the Senate.
For members of the county assemblies, impeachments are all about better leadership, accountability, as well as a means to remind the governor to deliver.
Guided by the Constitution, through the County Governments Act, to be able to ascertain issues of oversight. That's one. Number 2, there's also the politics of it, because all the actors here are politicians. And number 3 is that in debate, in legislative circles, you have your way. If you are the majority, and you have your say if you're a minority. It does not mean if you didn't have the majority that you are not right. It's just that maybe the politics wasn't right.
What the framers and what the Kenyans aspired in the Constitution is not being met. Why? Because of those issues I've highlighted that plays out. But we also have ourselves to blame, that we have not called upon the Senate to enact a clear impeachment statute. There's a clear lack of the impeachment procedure not being legislated. But the mere fact that Section 33 of the county government has created an avenue for the impeachment of the governor, we still do not have an enabling statute of how that impeachment process should be carried out. Remember, the judiciary has informed so much as to how a successful impeachment ought to be initiated.
Money and the politics around money and impeachment is the biggest concern, whether there is capacity or none or not. Of course, as you rightfully said, the capacity within the Senate is higher than the county assemblies. Now, which therefore takes us to the end goal and the end game of the impeachment. What is it that you are seeking to deal with?
Yet the very assemblies have been accused of dancing to the tune of the highest bidder, with outrightly corrupt governors remaining in office if their deep pockets can satisfy the MCA's thirst for money, and in some instance, clean and innocent governors being hounded out of office simply because they could not bend backwards.
The only hope we can have is that our electorates will be proactive and our electorates will understand the whole concept of democracy, the whole concept of devolution. And if they understand why we brought devolution, they'll understand why it is important to hold people to account, and they'll understand why transparency is a fundamental principle, the doctrine of our democracy. If then they understand, they will then elect individuals who can propagate this doctrine and perpetuate the doctrine of accountability.
Then there are the technicalities that make the process prone to attacks. One is the enormous responsibility bestowed upon the county assemblies and the Senate, seeing that a decision to impeach a governor has serious ramifications on their political future, with such deep responsibility only equated to the powers of the High Court. The qualifications and impartiality of the persons involved should not be questionable. Something experts argue still remains a mirage, especially with the country's high-voltage politics, mostly informed by two major political parties or coalitions. The successful impeachment of Mike Sonko was the second attempt on the man who garnered the highest number of votes in Nairobi in 2017. It is alleged that in both the first and the second impeachment motions against Sonko, State House was greatly involved, at the first instance opposing Sonko's ouster and in the second instance supporting it.
The impeachment is a last resort, is a mechanism of a last resort, that if governors can be able to do their work effectively, if MCAs can be able to do their work effectively, there would be no need for us to look at reasons for impeachment. But that is why I said that there are other things that happen. I only mentioned money. We don't know the number of meetings that happen when we're asleep to either impeach governors or to save them from impeachment processes, both at the level of the county assembly and also at the level at the Senate, of the Senate. And if they are successful to move further from the Senate, we don't know about the right to be heard.
It's work in progress. After 10 years, we're in the third cycle. There's a lot of improvement in my view. I've been there since 2013. I can see the way our secretariats are looking at issues there's a lot of maturity in it. So it's a growth process.
Nonetheless, there are those who found refuge at the courts of law after being impeached. Former Embu Governor Martin Nyaga Wambora and former Wajir Governor Mohamed Mohamud are amongst those returned to office by the courts, though the other arms of government now feel that the courts should stop meddling with affairs at the legislative houses.
We still have this separation of powers. The three arms of government must have checks and balances. So the question of checks and balances comes, Montesquieu argues and says that they come in to make sure that there is no arm of government that acts arbitrarily. So the equalizer of all this is the judiciary. The judiciary is a place that you run to and you think that the whole aspect of the rule of law, the impartiality will guide and inform the process. And that is why Article 165, clause 2, paragraph D says that the High Court has jurisdiction to determine whether anything said to be done has been done in accordance to the Constitution.
With the third dispensation already having seen an impeachment motion against one governor and one deputy governor less than 1 year from the 2022 general election, questions abound over whether this time round this all-important clause will be used as envisioned by the framers of the Constitution, with the lawmakers both at the county assemblies and at the Senate rising above board, or it will continue being the weapon for political battles that it has been over the years. Ibrahim Karanja, NTV.
And it is now
Sports news with